Many have speculated on who's actually in charge of creative for WWE.
You know, there's a lot out there that it's take a dump on Vince if it's bad, praise, Triple H if it's good. But, I got to give credit to both guys. There is no Triple H without Vince McMahon. And, everything that exists today is credit to Vince McMahon.
When it comes to professional wrestling, if you are talking about it, we are talking about it. Welcome to the WrestleChat Podcast with the Ant-Man.
Yes, indeed, we are back. It's Saturday. This is the WrestleChat Podcast, heard on the free iHeartRadio app, seen on Spotify and YouTube. What's going on? My name is the Ant-Man. I am your host, Michael Glavin, my tag partner, here with me today for some discourse. Before we get started, though, Michael, we've got some new toys that I wanted to play with here. I think this one will be a good introduction for you.
Hello, ladies.
That one work for you?
Yeah.
Anytime Michael's on.
Hello, ladies.
One of the only times that an adult film star has crossed over into regular TV. If you recall, there was a certain female that partnered up with Val Venus. Now, of course, at the time, I had no idea who she was, of course.
No clue.
But I was told, what her profession was. But no, that's super cool. I love that intro.
Yeah, one more time.
Hello, ladies.
You like that? Yeah. That's what I thought. We say this and this is going to be annoying, I know, here at the beginning until I get it out of my system. But, we say this every week. It's a big week in wrestling, wouldn't you say? It's a huge week in wrestling. But I feel like we say that every week, but did it kind of show itself more this week than maybe in the past?
I think it did. We saw quite a few interesting circumstances. I would say this has probably been the busiest week in quite a long time, not just because of what was happening with programming, but what was also happening on the internet. There was a lot of things happening with owners of companies tweeting Xing up a storm. We had, TV shows that we're going to get into a little bit going head to head, but there's a lot to cover today. Not so much in major booking or title changes or anything, but there's just a lot of information for us to cover.
There is. Let's jump in. It's not often that WWE will hit you with a rumor squasher and just completely obliterate any talk of some surprise happening, whether it be like a Money in the Bank cash in or a title change or a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. But kind of like an electronic fly swatter on a hot June day in Central Texas, which thankfully we are out of here in Central Texas. They swatted away any and all thoughts of CM Punk making a surprise at this year's Survivor Series in Chicago. According to a Fightful Select report this week, in quotes, higher-ups at WWE didn't want unrealistic expectations at this year's Survivor Series. CM Punk isn't signed, and both higher-ups in WWE who would absolutely know, and those close to CM Punk, say that they are not in negotiations with an ending to their phrase here, as of now. So as of the report, there was no negotiations. Michael, what's it say to you when a company like this just comes right out and says emphatically, there will be no CM Punk at Survivor Series in Chicago?
Yeah, it's a very complex situation. I mean, we don't often see, the WWE come out, as you said, and just completely squash any concept of a rumor. And so on one hand, do they know that we know that they know, or do they know that we know that they know that we know? And so really what it is, it's a chess game to figure out. Now, let me take one thing at a time here. Let me tell you one thing at a time.
That's CM Punk calling you right now.
What'd you just call me? You're going to fight me? Okay, sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll run. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. No, but in all seriousness, I don't know what to think, because on one hand, if I am negotiating in good faith with Punk, I don't know that I would want it to get out there, and I would keep that under pretty tight lock and key. On the other hand, I think a lot of us were surprised to begin with that A, Punk wanted to go back to WWE, and secondly, that WWE even would want Punk back. especially in today's climate with so many stars and such a deep roster. And so, do I think that it's completely true? No. Do I think it's completely false? No. What I do know is that, last year prior to WrestleMania, last year prior to WrestleMania, we had all kinds of reports from the powers that be online that said, Cody Rhodes' status was unknown and it wasn't looking good and this, that, whatever. It was locked in from the start. And so, so really it's just a wait and see thing. If it works out that CM Punk shows up in the WWE this side of a year or two from now, I'll be surprised. Like we've talked about in recent weeks, there's a lot of relationship issues there and they just don't go away because he got fired from a different company and is now looking for a job.
I'll tell you this, that if he does show up in Chicago at Survivor Series, I'm just canceling my Fightful membership. This is the one that I just mark my words, I'm out.
Yeah.
SRS, I'm out if this one happens.
Poor
and
Sean.
You reported that it would not. Yeah. Just yesterday, you, Ryan, John, and Jay dropped a brand new Man-Child Chronicles podcast. Where are you guys taking us this week?
We're keeping with the format of some of the recent episodes we've done. We're doing shorter episodes with one segment. This week it was Weird Random Facts. And it's about a half hour for you to come in and hear the most random, useless information. Here's what I will say. There was a lot of dark humor in this episode. So if you're a fan of dark humor, I want to invite you guys to come check us out. Jay tells a really great story about a famous person that you probably don't know their backstory, and tied that in with Weird Random Facts. So come join us at the Man-Child Chronicles. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Now, Man-Child Chronicles After Dark.
Exactly.
If you're watching on YouTube, scroll down to other channels that we love. You'll see the Man-Child Chronicles podcast there. Click it, hit subscribe. If you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, check out the description of this show. We've got the link to check out the Man-Child Chronicles podcast right there. Saturday was a huge day here on the Anthill. Oklahoma beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl. That game's a big deal every year. My wife she was working at the University of Texas when I met her. I marched on the drum line at the University of Oklahoma, and my Sooners got embarrassed last year. So imagine how, going into this game, how it was around this house. So we were out for blood at this game. It was a tough battle, but we pulled it out. My team is now 6-0. But then there was also Saturday night, we got WWE's Fastlane, college football and pro wrestling in the same day. It's part of why I love this time of year. There had been rumors that she'd show up, but there were still audible gasps from the Fastlane crowd when Jane Cargill stepped out of her SUV, greeted by Triple H. I think my text to you was, is she here to fight or is she here to walk a runway? But a sighting was all we got of Jade. She didn't get involved in anything. Michael, it's clear that they are investing in Jade, and it's clear that she's a star already. Did you get the feeling that first look at Jade, at Fastlane, that we're looking at a future WWE Women's Champion?
Oh, absolutely. I think the women's division has not needed fresh blood. There's so many great players in the women's division of WWE, but at the same time, we were struggling a little bit on bringing that next wave, that next generation of stars in the women's division for the WWE. We have so many established women that have many years left in them that they're not going anywhere. But at the same time, a lot of the feuds that we've seen over the last several years is really all we have to do all over again. And so, over recent weeks, we've seen more stars like Tegan Knox coming into the picture. Tegan, who's just already has so much experience and such skill under her belt. We've seen more people coming in, but to bring in an established star like Jade Cargill, from AEW into the WWE, they're going to catapult her right to the top. I'm not going to say that she's immediately going to win a championship, but you bet your sweet bippy she's going to be in running for one. And so it's really cool to see whoever is doing the booking right now really packing the women's division with a lot of talent to give us things that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, Jade hit up X asking followers to help her make her list of potential victims, her words. I'm anxious to see who's going to be her first real one. Speaking of victims, did anyone see the Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Damian Priest falling to Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes? We got us some new WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions.
Of all things that I didn't see coming, you know, but you know what? It somehow works, and there's a couple of things that make this scenario so incredibly interesting. You know, I think we needed to see some movement inside the Judgment Day in terms of, you know, I feel like the tag titles in a short time had gotten a little stagnant.
Sure.
But to see that switch, I think it gives two main event guys purpose for a little while here in the off season, as much as I hate saying that. Not only that, you know, something I noticed is that, and credit to someone who pointed this out on Twitter, that as the undisputed tag team champions, this gives both Jey and Cody the opportunity to float between brands, both guys of which have a bone to pick with a certain tribal chief. And for those of us that have been wanting to see Rhodes versus Reigns 2, you know, this bodes to be a very interesting situation. Not that Cody is now a full-time member of SmackDown, but Cody and Jey now have the ability to show up on SmackDown and take care of some business, and it'll be interesting to see how that happens over time as these worlds collide again that had been temporarily separated by a brand split.
Yeah, it gets Cody close to Roman Reigns, but it also gets Jey Uso close to the tribe again. And what I mean by that is everybody in the family. He's back close to family if that happens. And things can change when you get close to family again, too. For me, I think a turn from Jey on Cody seems inevitable to set up something, but you know, I'm excited to see how this all unfolds. I know that last week on the podcast here, we talked about a potential cash in with the Money in the Bank briefcase, with the tag match being there at the front of the show. It really kind of looked as though a cash in was inevitable, but you know, much like CM Punk rumors, it felt like WWE squashed that thought, at least pretty quickly and almost really overtly, just before the match started backstage. It was really Rhea going, "You're not cashing in. I'm going to take the briefcase. You just hang back here and get to feeling better." They handled it all backstage before the main event happened, and I maybe would have rather seen it play out in front of a crowd there on the main stage. You know, Damian going out with the briefcase and have a ref in tow, maybe Rhea stopping him on the ramp and snatching the briefcase and running away with it so he couldn't cash in, something that didn't give it away before the match even started. You know, there's always, I think the big thing is always that, oh my gosh, what if that happens? What if that happens? Even if it doesn't, it makes you feel like, well, this is probably going to be like the last 3 times, and then he cashes in for real. I think the question is not if it wasn't going to be at this one, when will it be?
You know, that's a great question. I don't think there's a way of knowing. I think the beauty of Money in the Bank is not even from a kayfabe storyline perspective, but it's really a Band-Aid or a get out of jail free card for booking when you need to get something done. And you know, Damian Priest has grown so much over the last couple of years. You know, it would be great to see him cash in and win a title. But when that happens, I don't think there's any way of knowing. But just as a reminder, you know, we're still on the short side of his time length of having the briefcase. You know, he still has the ability to push all the way through till next year, through Mania, you know, into Money in the Bank next year. And so we've got a lot of time that he really could sit on it to make the right decision. So as for when, I don't know. And speaking to, you know, that segment, I would actually disagree a little bit with you in that I actually like the way it played out backstage, because I think we're seeing more glimmers of the reality that wrestling doesn't happen just on one side of the LED wall. You know, it was cool to see that conversation happening to where, you know, we talked about it last week. It was very obvious that there was going to be an opportunity here. You know, they didn't expect to lose the tag titles. You know, he didn't expect to get his knee smashed. And it was cool to see the reality of wrestling played out to say, hey, you're going to blow this if you go out there tonight. So let me save you from yourself, and let's just not let's not do that.
You know, speaking of that main event with Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura, it was very creative to see how WWE introduced color into this match without anyone actually bleeding. In fact, I'd broken away for a little bit before the match started and saw a spot on social media, saw this spot, in fact, where I thought Seth was bleeding just from looking at the social media post. I was like, wow, that's a lot of blood. And the fact that they're even showing something with blood right now is crazy for WWE, and it not be Brock Lesnar. Only to see that it was actually red mist. It was Shinsuke Nakamura spitting red mist in Seth's face, which, you know, caused him some havoc there and caused him nearly to lose the match. How'd you feel about this creativity with red mist versus true color in a match?
You know, I'm all about the mist. I think there's a great legacy behind it for all of the Japanese wrestlers going back in the day. But I believe I texted you while we were watching the match, and I said, you know, real blood in a match, stop the match, cover up, Band-Aid. Mist that looks exactly like blood in every way, shape, or form, all good. you know?
Yep.
And so...
Show a close-up.
You know, show close-ups, you know, this, that, whatever. So while the logic of it bothered me a little bit, I think it was a great element to the match that really added some interesting factors to it without, you know, necessarily causing harm or bigger spots or different things like that. So I thought it was a great touch, despite the sketchy logic.
What would life be like if we got weekly wrestling wars again? You know, like we had with WWF and WCW in the 90s. I feel like we got a little taste of nostalgia this week in more ways than one. It all happened on Tuesday. It was the regular night for NXT on USA, but AEW's Dynamite got moved from Wednesday to Tuesday because of the MLB playoffs, pitting the two shows in a head-to-head battle. It would be Adam Copeland's first match in his new home going up against the big star props in WWE's developmental company, Cena, LA Knight. There you go. The Undertaker, Asuka, Paul Heyman. Did I miss anybody in there?
I don't think so.
I think that was it.
I think that was it. Did we have a little Becky Lynch in there somewhere?
No, I thought she was advertised for like next week on Raw.
That's
or
right.
something.
That's right.
Anyway,
That's right.
Something like it. But I think Shane McMahon was in the crowd. That was no, maybe not. Ultimately, it looks like the star power paid off though for NXT, seeing just under 1 million viewers, while Dynamite brought in just over 600,000. We noted on last week's show both NXT and Dynamite are positioning for new network rights deals. First, do you feel that these shows moved the needle one way or the other for either show when it came to networks making a decision on whether they're going to pick up, you know, a new contract with either one of these guys?
Move the needle, I don't know what I would say. In that context, I think WWE did something very smart and very, very special. While everyone's focusing on, you know, the specific war between WWE and AEW in this scenario, I think it goes long, you know, much deeper into the business side, because what AEW said is we're going to put forth the best that we have, and the best is still going to fall short. And what WWE said is that we have 3 shows, and whichever one we want to pop, we can make it pop. And so WWE really flexed in the sense that with their roster, with their legends, with whoever they want, it doesn't matter if it's their developmental show, they're going to pack it out and they are going to move the needle. I mean, when you think about what is essentially a training camp doing nearly 1 million on a random Tuesday night, it's pretty impressive. And to think that that was really only with a week or 2 promotional notice, you know, much less, you know, absent of long-term booking even. And so I think WWE not only won from a head-to-head standpoint, but I think they also displayed to a lot of potential networks that, you know, we're someone that you want on your network because we can stack or not stack any show that we want to.
Yeah, you're right. On X or Twitter, or whatever you call it, Twix, Tony Khan was poking the bear on X before the show started and continued even after the ratings came out, saying this: This week, 2 active decades-long rating streaks from 2 great legends were ended. With all due respect, until this week's head-to-head AEW on TBS versus WWE on USA, neither John Cena nor Undertaker had ever been on a WWE show with under 1 million total viewers, plus under 400,000 in their demo. I think that got into the weeds a little bit. I think I did tell you that I thought, this is kind of shocking that actually any show for WWE isn't above 1 million. I mean, because, you know, a million back in the day was like, that was a bad night. You only got 1 million viewers. But in 2023, where you're getting 10 million views on a social media post and 500,000 views on TV, that's just kind of where we are. We're not talking about back in the day against WCW Tony. Many thought Tony had come unhinged and was delusional. Others saw that he followed that up with a promotion for tonight's matches on Collision. Either way you look at it, Tony's playing the game and fighting from underneath. It's only crazy if it doesn't work, right?
Absolutely. You know, this is the first time, in my opinion, and that's the big, bold disclaimer, that I feel like we've seen a chink in the armor of AEW. Not because they lost, but because the attitude of which they lost in. You know, at the end of the day, AEW has a lot of great superstars. They're doing great stuff on TV, but you don't have 50 years of people to pull in. Like, you know, I'm sorry, but you don't have an Undertaker or a John Cena yet.
Can't.
Yeah. Yet. And so, you know, if AEW would have won, that's great. I think it's possible they could have. I'm not saying that it's impossible. But I think AEW at this time in their business, they need to speak softly and carry a big stick. Yeah. You know, they have to be willing to lose in the short term because there's only some things that come with time. And stacking up against people like The Undertaker, John Cena, there's just no way to play the chess game against that yet. It will come with time, but the only thing that I felt like was showing cracks in the armor of AEW was just the sore loser attitude just a little bit. And again, just speaking honestly here, we don't speak negatively very much. I love AEW. I love what they're doing. But lose with a little bit of pride, knowing that there's lots of time left on the clock. The brand is still growing and doing great things. And so AEW's time will come. It's just not quite yet.
I think I would spend maybe more of this time working on building my Undertakers in the future, my John Cenas for the future, rather than talking. I mean, you think about even WCW, guys like Booker T, you know, that they built over time, they invested in and worked on. You know, there's only a couple people. If MJF is one of those people, great. But MJF even talks about, like, I can't wait to, part of it I'm sure is his story, but that he talks about, I can't wait to finish this up so I can go to WWE. And that, whether it be real or not, it's the feeling that you get from him every single time he's on TV, just because of how passionate that promo was like a year ago, or whatever it was. Something that we should watch, you know, over the next couple of months is the return on investment. I'm not going to jump the gun here, but, you know, bringing in Adam Copeland, right now there's been no significant needle movement with his move to AEW, but they're just now setting up a storyline with he and Uncle Jay, Christian Cage. So rather than judge the move too early, let's circle back here in a couple of months as, you know, some things play out, and then revisit this conversation, because I think that's something that he might be one of. CM Punk was a CM Punk thing. This one, it feels like things are done right. It felt like it was done right in WWE. His move came here. It was genuine, and he talked about it. What he talked about was really what he did on screen. Let's see if that investment in Adam pays off in actual people watching because he came over. And that, you know, ultimately for Tony, I think would be the win there. Wednesday was still a big day for wrestling, especially if you paid attention to anything going on in the Mid-South in the mid-late 80s, early 90s. You've heard me mention it here on the show before. It's what I grew up watching, world-class championship wrestling. And as Cody Rhodes' intro claims, wrestling has more than one royal family. And we got a glimpse at the trailer for a movie about one of those families, the Von Erichs, as A24 Films dropped the first trailer for the Iron Claw. If I watched it once, I watched it 50 times on Wednesday. And if I'm honest, through misty eyes, because it was like climbing in a 2.5 minute time machine back to my childhood and where I fell in love with this crazy, crazy world of professional wrestling. I didn't think that, Zac Efron, the pictures or in the trailer, looks or even resembles Kevin Von Erich from, the chin up. But the thought quickly left as I watch how they put together an amazing story of this family. Michael, I know you didn't grow up watching WCCW, but what were your first thoughts on seeing the trailer on Wednesday?
That's a great question. I think as my age causes me to kind of be a cross-generational fan. And while there's some, especially on, the WWE network, you do have available some of the territory archives and things like that. It's been hard to access some of those things over time to really become vested in that era, just from a knowledge standpoint. But here's what I can tell you. While I don't have an extended knowledge of the Von Erich family, I can tell you that what I felt during that commercial was a sense of wrestling purity, if you will. There was just this all-natural, magical vibe that only comes from pro wrestling. And to see a preview of the behind the scenes of a family who did so much, endured so much, and was at the focal point of wrestling for such a long time, man, just a good feeling. And as you who is coming into this to relive, I'm coming into it to learn the things that I don't already know. And so I'm hoping that the movie holds true to real life, that I'm able to learn a little bit more about the family in ways that I couldn't growing up. But either way, just like I remember when I was a kid watching wrestling, live, it had that feeling.
And it did. And I think it's amplified when you're younger too. And that's kind of how it was for me. If you haven't watched the trailer for the Iron Claw yet, head over to WrestleChat.tv. WrestleChat.tv. We've got it loaded up there for you to see right now. The Iron Claw comes out December 22nd in theaters. We've got some exciting stuff that we're actually working on surrounding this movie, so make sure you come back and connect with us on Instagram to WrestleChat TV, at WrestleChat TV on Instagram. Since Vince's scandal, many have speculated on who's actually in charge of creative for WWE. Vince even mentioned in the merger announcement that he doesn't have time to get into the weeds anymore. But many reports and really noticeable changes to creative said otherwise. This week, many rumors and reports have come out that Endeavor has officially handed the creative reins to Paul Levesque, Triple H. Michael, how much of that do you truly believe that Triple H is in charge?
I think what that tells us is it's permission to book, with the understanding that very little is going to get in your way. I think before you always booked with an asterisk, knowing that somebody was going to come in and tinker with your plans. And with the multiple outlets that reported on this, I think what we're seeing is more or less a 90-10 power shift of, Vince is not totally out of the picture and never will be until he's out of the picture. But I think what we're seeing is the new corporation putting their trust because of what's been seen into Paul Levesque. There's a lot out there that it's take a dump on Vince if it's bad, praise Triple H if it's good. But I got to give credit to both guys. There is no Triple H without Vince McMahon. And, everything that exists today is credit to Vince McMahon. And the guy still has forgotten more than any of us will ever know about the business. And, a lot of what Triple H knows is from Vince McMahon. That's not to say that Triple H can't learn his own things and develop his own craft, but Vince is the reason we have everything that we have today. And as long as he's involved, he should have a seat at the table. With that said, when you've been doing it for 50 years, just like we see with any organization, business, anything, there are things that you get comfortable with. And there are things that worked before that you assume will work now that may not be the case. And that's not a bad thing. And so really what Triple H is bringing to the table that has evolved from the knowledge that he's gotten, from the business and from Vince, is to book in this new digital world. It's to create, carry on that legacy of the WWE to create new stars. And so I am not the guy that is going to sit here and take a dump on Vince. Now, at the same time, Brock versus Omos, I probably could have done without that. But at the same time, there's so much that Vince still does incredibly well. But we're excited to see Triple H taking the reins and doing all the things that he knows how to do. So credit to both guys on their investment in this industry.
I think both creative styles are very noticeable and both have a signature. So I would say the proof will be in the product on who's in charge as we move forward as fans just watching. And man, we said it at the beginning that it was a big week in wrestling, and I think our time together here today has proved that. Michael, as always, good to talk it over and break it all down with you here on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Quick funny story. I was supposed to be off this week. And for those eagle eye watchers that may be going, something's different about this guy this week, that's because I'm coming to you live from my garage. Computer sitting on top of a dumpster trash can and making it all work, because when everything that happened this week happened, and I texted you and said, man, I got to figure out how to be on the show this week because there's so much to talk about that I didn't want to miss. So thanks for letting me come with you live to the garage this week.
Thank you for delaying your move across country for this as well. We appreciate that. Listen, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button wherever you're taking in the show today. If you like what you heard or what you saw, share it with a friend. Help us spread the word about the WrestleChat podcast. It means so much, and that's free to do. That didn't cost you anything. You can find the show on Instagram at WrestleChat TV. We'd love to connect with you there as well. For Michael Glavin, I'm the Ant-Man. We'll see you next week here on the WrestleChat Podcast.